Howdy folks, it's Matthew, your friendly neighborhood technician, and today I moved forward some more on the Nisan 2.5 liter rebuild. Just to recap, the reason why we pulled the cylinder head on this job is because the valves were found to be out of whack per proper valve measurement. And so I pulled the cylinder head, and sure enough, all the valves were open. They were completely gunked up with carbon buildup. And so the cylinder head went off to the machine shop, got all brand new valves, SEM seals, and all that other good stuff. If you follow my videos, you'll see that I did a valve adjustment on the cylinder head with the cylinder head off of the engine. And then I went ahead and reinstalled the cylinder head, which the next step being installing the timing chain. And I've got all that figured out. But some information to give you on this engine. So this is the Nisan 2.5 liter engine, and it is a interference engine. So what does interference engine means? It means that if it's out of time or anything like that, the valves and the pistons can end up hitting each other and bending each other and destroying the engine internally. So it's very important that you uninstall and reinstall everything accordingly. So the spot that you want your timing marks to be at are going to be on your exhaust side. You're going to have this dot here. You're going to want that at the 3 o'clock position. On your VVT gear, on your intake side, this is what you're going to use to line up your cam with, and this is what you're going to use to install your chain with, is this mark right here, and you want that in the 11 o'clock position. Now, these will go in the right position so long as you have your crankshaft and mark and the 12 o'clock position. And you see that little dot on the engine block? That's how you know your crankshaft is lined up at the 12 o'clock position accordingly. So right now everything is lined up accordingly on this engine. But for chain install, you're going to line up your colored links with these marks. So you're going to line up your blue colored link with this mark. You're going to line up your blue colored link with this mark. And then actually, you're going to go underneath here, and if you can see that dot right there, you're going to line up your blue colored link with that dot as well. All right, now mine are not lined up because I've already turned the engine over to check to make sure that it had valve clearance and nothing was going to get stuck. So everything's good to go. So some information for you, and this is only if you have pulled your cylinder head, pulled the camshafts out, and readjusted the valves. When you reinstall the cylinder head, hold on a second, I got a kiddo just showed up home from school. And I'm back. Thanks guys for your patience. So, if you're pulling your cylinder head, and if you've removed your camshafts and you put all new valves in there, and you reinstalled your camshafts and you reinstall your cylinder head, the one thing that's going to never change is the fact that you set this crankshaft to what's called TDC per the marks. And what TDC is it means that the number one piston is going to be all the way up on the compression stroke. And if you pull your cylinder head, you'll see that the piston will be flush with the engine block. And same thing for cylinder number 4. Now the catch is, when you reinstall your cylinder head, with the chain removed, you're going to have to adjust by turning these camshafts. You're going to have to adjust them so that your mark is at the 11 o'clock and your mark is at the 3 o'clock position. However, because the interference between the valves and the pistons are so tight on this engine, if you attempt to do that with the bottom half of the engine set at factory TDC, you're going to end up having a problem, and you're going to find out that you're only able to turn these camshafts 180 degrees in either direction. You will not be able to turn them a full rotation, so that way you can properly adjust them to install the chain. So what do you do then? What you're going to do is you're going to come down here with the chain uninstalled, and you're going to turn the crankshaft so that this mark is at the 1 o'clock position. And what that's going to do is that's going to bring both cylinder number 1 and cylinder number 4, that's going to bring those pistons down just a hair. And that's going to allow you to turn these camshafts so that way your valves are not hitting the pistons and you'll be able to turn them freely to adjust. So once you've turned the crankshaft to the 1 o'clock position, and now you've turned your camshaft so that this is at 3 o'clock and this is 11 o'clock, you're then going to go back underneath and turn your crankshaft back to the 12 o'clock position. And once you've got that back at the 12 o'clock position, you're then going to go ahead and install your chain, starting at the bottom with that mark down there. Line your colored link up with that mark, and then go ahead and come up to the top and line your color link up with this mark, and line your color link up with this mark. Once you've got that done, go ahead and install your guide rails and your tensioner, and then go ahead and turn the engine over and make sure that everything turns over nice and smooth and there's no hang-ups or interference. So let me show you. Okay, so like I said, now that we've got the chain installed and everything's good, we're going to go ahead and turn the engine over by hand, and we want a good smooth turnover. Now, one thing to keep in mind is 1 full rotation clockwise on the bottom half of the engine only equals half a rotation on the top half of the engine. So you have to turn the bottom half of the engine 2 full rotations clockwise in order for it to equal a full engine rotation both on the bottom and the top. So here we go. So that's 1 full rotation on the bottom half of the engine, and right now we're actually 100 and up. I'm sorry, that was 2 full rotations, and so our mark has come back to where they need to be. So let's just do 1 full rotation and see what happens. So that's 1 full rotation, and notice our marks are over here instead of over here. So we're going to go 1 more full rotation. And we're going to bring our mark back to the 12 o'clock position. And now we're going to double check everything. So now we're going to double check that our mark is at the 12 o'clock position where it needs to be. And we're good there. And we want our mark to be at the 3 o'clock position here. We're good there. And our mark to be at the 11 o'clock position here. We're good there. The final check that we want to do is make sure that these cam lobes on cylinder number 1 are facing out. This means that these valves are closed and the piston is all the way up. And cylinder number 4, they're facing inwards and down, but notice the elbow is not making contact with the lifter. So again, this is another way to be sure that these valves are closed and the piston is all the way up. It can get a little complicated, it can fry your brain, but if you just take your time and focus and all that other good stuff, you can get it figured out. Another thing is, once you've lined your colored links up with the mark and then turn your engine over by hand to double check everything, technically or basically you will never get those colored marks to line back up. Don't worry about those colored marks. They're for installation purposes only. There's a math formula that you can do that basically would equal out to needing to turn that bottom half of the engine like 100 times in order to get those links to come back and meet right here. So basically, don't worry about the links not matching up after you turned it over. All you're looking for once you turned it over by hand is making sure, first and foremost, you can turn it over by hand. There's no interference, there's no hang-ups, and once you line the mark on the crankshaft with the mark on the engine block back to the 12 o'clock position, you want to make sure that these marks come back to where they're at. If they don't, then you've got something off and you need to pull the timing chain, reset everything, and put it back together. And again, folks, as far as turning the crankshaft to the 1 o'clock position and then dialing it back to 12 o'clock, you're only going to do that if you pull the cylinder head pulled the camshafts and have readjusted everything. Again, that's going to give you the amount of room you need to go ahead and freely turn your camshafts while it's installed on the engine without having valves and pistons hit. Don't go get a big breaker bar or something and try to turn the camshafts over, because you'll just end up bending a valve or something like that. So, all right, folks. Well, this is Matthew, your friendly neighborhood technician. I greatly appreciate you guys hanging out on my YouTube channel, watching my videos, supporting me. I really get excited to see all the comments and questions. I do my best to answer all your questions. So if you have any engine building questions or timing questions, just shoot them to me in the comment section, and I'll get back to you within the week and get them answered. If it's something super complicated, shoot me an email. I've been known to trade phone numbers and talk to people over the phone and help walk you through procedures and stuff. And you never know, sometimes two brains are better than one in a situation. So, plus I always enjoy hearing what type of projects you got going on and stuff. And I like learning from you also. Always remain teachable is my philosophy in life and in this business. So this is Matthew, your friendly neighborhood technician. I am signing off.